Sending it to Savannah and to Columbus, right? Okay. Thought we could get into that a little bit. Now we've covered that. Great. Laptop doesn't have an HDMI output directly, does it? So now I know who to beat up. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, they haven't finished it yet. Hopefully that will have one.
How are you all? How many of you were at the tailgate Saturday? That was great, wasn't it? Yeah, it was great. Did you listen to the bands? What'd you think? Who did you like? Molly Stevens? Somebody like Flaco Torres? Yeah. Those are very different genres. Any of you go to the beer tent? Somebody did. They told me they sold over 1,000 beers. I like that. I think those kinds of events are good at building community, and so I'm glad so many of you were able to attend. I want to give you an update. See what we got. So I used to go around campus with like a dollar bill in my pocket or a stack of dollars, and I would ask people if they could recite our mission statement. And if they could, I'd give them $1. Should I continue doing that? It's been a while since I've done it. Huh? Make it $5? I may start that again. It's very easy. Very easy. How many of y'all think you could do it if I shut it off right now? Okay, shut it off. Let's see. I'll screw it up. We'll do this later. So this is what our footprint looks like today. And a lot of people, President Trump does this all the time. A lot of people didn't know that Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, right? A lot of people don't know that Mercer is all over the place, and we are. With the new medical school campus opening in Columbus, we really consider ourselves to have 4 major campuses in addition to our regional academic centers in Henry County and Douglas County. And you see the 4 major campuses starred there. What do we have in Warner Robins? Merck, of course, very important part of Mercer, the Mercer Engineering Research Center. I think we have over 200 people at Merck now. Is that right, Rhonda? Yeah, over 200 people at Merck. It's a very important part of the university. What do we have in Plains? Mercer Medicine, yeah, great first-class medical clinic there. We haven't announced some of these things, so it would be unfair for me to ask, but Fort Gaines, we're about to have a second rural medicine clinic like the one we have in Plains. It's one of the poorest counties in the state, terribly underserved, and I think we can make a difference in Fort Gaines. We haven't announced this yet either, but we're about to have a third rural medicine clinic. This one will be in Peach County, and I think our dream is that one day we may have 25 of these rural medicine clinics, maybe even 50 scattered around the state. It's a way for us to really expand the impact of the School of Medicine. So we're excited about all that. What do we have in Dublin? Any ideas? This is a trick question. We really have nothing in Dublin. But we're hoping that we'll have some residency programs in Dublin soon for the School of Medicine. Waycross, we're now the sponsor of residency programs at the hospital in Waycross, and also our first foray across the state line. We're sponsoring the residency programs at the hospital in Orange Park as well, as part of a deal that we've worked out with the Hospital Corporation of America. So a very far-flung presence today, and I think we'll see that map continuing to fill out in the years ahead. The Provost's report. You're next, Scott. Would you come and give your report, please? You all know our provost?
Y'all hear me? I don't need this thing. All right, so we have some new deans at the university this year. We have a new dean of education. I'm most thankful as I've had the opportunity to be dean for 2 years, 2.5 years before that. Dr. Tom Kabbalah, he comes to us from Georgia Southern. He's been dean of the School of Education there for 9 years, and prior to that, he was a long-time department chair in the School of Education. How many of y'all know Julie Tetherbridge? Yeah, exactly. Can't miss her. So Julie's our interim dean in Stetson. She's an accounting faculty member, been here a number of years, and she won't be outworked. She's really good. Looking forward to her stepping in an interim role for this year, and she's got a lot of ideas, and hopefully we can get them channeled and harnessed and focused. Before she has tons of different ideas that I think can advance the school. And most recently, Jeff Waldrop, Dean of the University Library. Jeff comes to us from California. He was actually at Fuller Seminary. He was head of libraries there. And he's an interesting guy. He was actually a certified aircraft mechanic for a number of years before he went. Well, I'm done. Thank y'all. So Jeff actually, I made a run at him. We actually did a library dean search. I made Jeff the offer. He actually turned us down. We had an interim for a year and was talking about opening a search again. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to make a run at Jeff again. He was so high on our list, and we really wanted him the first go around. He had some family obligations. And I happened to call him on a Friday afternoon, and he said, I may be a little bit distracted. I'm rushing home to see if my house burned up in the California wildfires. I said, well, I'd like to make you an offer. And he said, I'll take it. So we're real happy with the new...
So they can hear you in Savannah.
I don't like those people.
He's kidding y'all.
Sure. So I don't need to start over, do I? No. So let's talk a little bit about research. On our left, we have Dean Laura Lackey of the School of Engineering. And on the right, we have Adam Kiefer, Distinguished University Professor in the Chemistry Department. And this is their mercury capture system that you probably all have heard about at one point or the other, where they can actually, for artisanal gold miners, they can capture the mercury vapor before it can cause any sort of harm to the people who may be trying to capture the gold. Mercer on Mission, we all know about that. That's a great program for the university. It's a hallmark program for the university. In fact, we had the engineering accreditors here today, and they talked about a jewel in the crown for engineering in the university, and it was Mercer on Mission. One of sort of our hallmark programs within Mercer on Mission is the prosthetics program led by Dr. Havo on the right. The little fellow in the yellow, he is our 10,000th prosthetic recipient in Vietnam. And you can see to the left of him is Leslie Underwood, and to the left of her is Craig McMahon, Ha, and then a student that recently graduated. So Ha has moved from legs, above the knee and below the knee prosthetics, to hands. And I said, really, hands? He said, they're actually easier than legs to do, which amazes me. And so I think we're up to almost 13,000 prosthetics now.
Just over 13,000.
Some of those videos and stories are just unbelievable. And we've had great growth on Mercer on Mission. This past year, we had 270 students involved in 16 different projects with 50 faculty in 13 different countries. One of the things we're working on this year is to build some opportunities where staff can actually go and participate. And so we're working out some of the logistics related to that, but hopefully we'll be reaching out pretty soon to see what the interest may be. Anybody interested in doing a Mercer on Mission? We may limit opportunities. So
But we're serious about this. If
we
you
are.
read our strategic plan, it says that one of the things we want to do is create opportunity for staff to participate in this. We just have to figure out how to do it, but we'll have that figured out soon.
Does Mike have an off button?
I'm just filling in where you screw up, that's all.
We're being recorded. So research, that's important at the university. That's been part of our former strategic plan and obviously this strategic plan. We've had great growth in research. The way we keep track of it is what's called NSF research expenditures, is how much external funding we bring in and expend in a year, and it's how much institutional funding we spend in a particular year. And you see since 2007, we've grown from just over 19 million to this year, it's going to be about $45 million in research expenditures. That's a lot of growth at the university. And the president was talking about Merck. Merck is actually almost 34 million of that amount. So it is a research machine out of Warner Robins. School of Medicine, the president mentioned that. Here are some of our opportunities in the School of Medicine. We're going to build a Columbus campus. We've submitted an application to the LCME, those are the accreditors, the Liaison Committee for Medical Education, saying we want to go to a full 4-year campus in Columbus. We currently have years 3 and 4 there. We're waiting to hear back. We actually had the secretary for LCME on campus last week, and I kept saying, look, we're moving along here. Should we be nervous? She said, well, we never tell you no. And I said, okay, I like the sound of that. So it's full speed ahead. So we're currently, Jim Netherton is working with folks in Columbus and our people to design a facility, a medical education facility in Columbus. We have a lot of options there. We're beginning to recruit faculty. You have to have many of your faculty on board at least a year out, so they begin to develop the curriculum. Students will begin in January 2020, and then our first class will arrive in July of 2021. So that's a pretty quick time frame, particularly to get the facility up and running, but Jim's very confident that we'll get done in time. If you get done on time, I'll like it too. So the rural health clinics. The president talked about this opportunity. A lot of small towns are losing primary care physicians, and that's because they can't make money. But we have a central operation through Mercer Medicine that does a lot of the bureaucratic work and the administrative function that doctors in small communities have to build out, and as a result, it hurts their bottom line to the point that they just can't make a living. So, has anybody ever been to Fort Gaines, Georgia? All right, y'all are lying. So, it's a community, it's in Clay County. There's 2,000 people in the entire county. It is small. It is West Georgia, bumping up to the Alabama line, and they are desperate for good medical practitioners. So as the president said, we're working on a clinic there. We've started our first clinic in Plains, and it's doing quite well. And it is state-of-the-art in terms of equipment and actually telehealth for specialty consults. And in Fort Valley, we're building out there. We're actually taking on a practice that's doing quite well. But the physician is stepping down. And so we think we have a lot of good opportunity there. Now, the president said, how many did you say we want to do?
It depends on when you ask me. Sometimes I say 25, sometimes I say 50.
Well, okay, well, he's
If I've
lying.
had
The
a
first
glass
time he
of
said
wine,
200.
I might say 100.
Yeah, well, the first time he said 200, so after we resuscitated the dean, we got him down to 50. And so we're starting off slow because we want to do it right. We've learned a lot from Plains, but we think that this not only can be great for the community, it can make a difference for our students because then they're set up for rotations in these rural areas, which we think is important for them to sort of see what medicine's like out there on the front line by yourself in these small towns. Rural health and medicine and medical doctors for underserved areas is the mission of the School of Medicine. It's on the wall right outside. And we actually have started a Georgia Rural Health Innovation Center, and we have a lot of momentum with this center. And they've actually received state funding, about $2 million a year for 7 years, guaranteed with the opportunity for renewal after that. And it's really supposed to improve health and access to health care across the state. One academic opportunity that arose as we were talking about this was a new PhD in rural health sciences. It's really the only kind PhD program like that in America. And so we'll begin to matriculate students into that program, and they'll have a particular focus on the science and the research related to rural health, and we think that could be a big advantage for us. And then the degree is going to be interdisciplinary. It'll go all the way from public health into some basic science, into some medical outcomes work. We also are home of a NIH, National Institutes of Health, Center of Excellence in Rural Health. The two fellows at the bottom, Bryant Smalley and Jacob Warren, are the principal investigators for this. And we've received 2 big grants, a $5.5 million HRSA grant to address rural maternal and infant mortality in southeast Georgia. They're focusing on that part of the state as their sort of their study group. And then they also have received a $200,000 grant to address the opioid crisis up in northeast Georgia. And if you've been following the news lately, all of those drug makers are being sued right and left. I think one just claimed bankruptcy to get out of it. But this is a big deal, and these guys do a great job, and they really are the experts in the area. And between this and the Rural Health Center, there's a lot going on at Mercer, and people are coming to us wanting to invest in the research we're doing in these 2 areas. Student achievement. We've really had a number of good years in terms of success of our students and great student outcomes. I'm going to talk about a couple of them. Goldwater Scholars. That's the premier scholarship for juniors or senior undergraduate students who study science or engineering. Mercer has had 9 over the last few years. We've had our most ever this past year. We had 3. Amanda Semino, she's a biomedical engineer. She works with Joanna Thomas in the School of Engineering, and she actually is going to go get her PhD in regenerative medicine. Brady Simon works with Dr. Thitza in the School of Engineering, and he's actually going to go get his PhD in computer engineering. And Charlotte Dungan works with Dr. Mike McCarthy as an environmental engineer, and she wants to get a PhD in water resource management. And these are super smart kids. There were about 300 awarded across the nation, and Mercer had 3. I think we tied Harvard this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Harvard tied us.
So, Fulbrights. We've actually pushed hard on a number of our students to go out and receive Fulbrights, where they go internationally for 2 years post-graduation and actually teach. We had 5 finalists this year, and we had 2 matches with the country. So you could be a finalist where the Fulbright say, we'll fund you, but the country you select, they actually have to align, and they have slots, or they decide that they'll fund it or whatever. And we actually had 2 matches this year. Megan Duffy, she's an English and math major, which is really unusual. She's going to South Korea to teach and ultimately go get her PhD in mathematics. Sarah Grace Hall is going to the Czech Republic to teach for 2 years, and after that, she's going to go get a PhD in international affairs. This is a great opportunity for these students, and 5 finalists, I think that's the most we've had. Is that right? Yeah, we've had a number of semifinalists in the past. Peace Corps, Mercer has been one of the leaders in the Southeast in terms of Peace Corps recipients, and we had 3 this year. Alex Grandinetti, he's going to Panama, and he's going to work on systems for farmers to have more efficient crop yield, which I think is kind of a cool project. Hura Qureshi, she's going to Botswana to work with families of AIDS victims and sort of societal impact factors related to that. And she was actually one of our finalists for the Fulbright, too. And Michael Tan is going to the Philippines, and he's actually working on a project related to restoring marine environments to increase fish populations because that's a real issue with pollution these days. And here's sort of a laundry list. We had 34 inductees to Phi Beta Kappa, which is the premier academic honor society in the liberal arts. We had 2 Amgem scholars, hyper-competitive program for undergraduate students in biomedical science to go study at a R1 university. We sent 3 students to the DAAD program in Germany, which is a premier international program for engineering education and research. 4 students to the SMART program. That's actually the recipients of SMART scholarships, where the DoD funds that, and ultimately these students plan to get a PhD and teach in a STEM area. 15 Gilmans. This is a great program for the university. These are international study travel awards for students who are Pell eligible. So they probably would have no hope of going and do study abroad except for this program. And then we have a Wrangell Fellowship, which is really competitive for students who actually want to do public policy, and a Holland Scholar, which is for people who want to study atmospheric and oceanic sciences. And I think that's it. Questions?
Questions for Scott? How many of y'all work in the medical school, by the way? Yeah, a lot of you. Yeah, a lot of you. I'm really proud of what's going on there. I think the medical school has as much, if not more, momentum than any school or college in the university. Is that a fair assessment, Scott? Yeah, just tremendous work. Like this maternal mortality project that Scott mentioned. It's occurring in 7 counties in southeast Georgia. Georgia is ranked the #1 place in the country to do business. It's ranked the worst place in the country to give birth to a child. We rank 50th in maternal mortality rates. And to me, it's shameful that an advanced state that has such a strong business climate has such a terrible climate for women to give birth. And in that 7-county area in southeast Georgia, maternal mortality rates are worse than they are in North Korea, worse than they are in Syria. So I know there are a couple of you in the room who are working on that grant. That's really, really important work, as is the other work going on in the School of Medicine. So we're proud of that school. Let's see, somebody had oh, Penny's got it. Yeah, Penny, you're up. Why don't you talk about enrollment?
Thank you, President Underwood. And while he was talking about the medical school, I was sitting back there thinking that one of the taglines that we like to say in enrollment management all the time is the world needs more Mercerians. So when I hear those data and what we're doing and what our students are out there doing to overcome those tremendous barriers, it just makes me a proud Mercerian. So I just finished a meeting with a big marketing firm out of Philadelphia that has been working with Mercer for several years. And the gentleman came to my office after our meeting, and he sat down at my table and he said, "Dr. Elkins, can I ask you something privately?" And I said, "Sure." And you're thinking, good Lord, what's he going to ask? And he goes, "So what's going on here?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean, what's going on here?" And he goes, "These faculty and professional staff that we have spoken to, they really believe in what you're doing here," as if he was shocked at that. And you know what I said? Welcome to Mercer. That's who we are. And you do believe that, because when we're talking about enrollment and getting students in here, we're not looking for just any students. We're looking for Mercerians who are going to be out there changing the world. And guess what? We're not only looking for students like that, we're looking for faculty and professional staff like that. And I am blessed. I go to a lot of different places, a lot of different universities, and we say it all the time, and I hear the president say it about y'all, that we know we have a very special community here. And so I'm going to start today, just like I always start my presentations, by saying thank you. We appreciate you. So whether you are in IT, who makes sure that all of our infrastructure and support is there for us to recruit and retain and graduate great students, or whether you're in the bursar's office. Where are my bursar people? Yep, there they are. Y'all know you'll sit in packs. You know, like I've got the bursar, I got IT, there's medical school, there's HR, yeah. But all of you, and I mean this very sincerely, whether you are front-facing to students or back office to students. I'm sitting there looking at Teresa Crowley, who's been here a long, long time, but does a tremendous work in the registrar's office in support of our students. So all of you are a part of our recruitment team. So when I talk about these data, and when we talk about the students that you just heard our provost talk about and all of those outcomes and those scholarships and the fellowships, did any of you see the faces of students that you interact with on a daily basis? Yeah? Didn't it make you proud? And say, yeah, I know that I helped him or her to be successful and get through Mercer. I see that. I know you do. You sit knee to knee with these students to help them to attain success here at the university. So how many students do we have? Well, let's talk about enrollment just a little bit. And I'm going to give you some big picture data and some traditional undergraduate data. I'm going to try to disaggregate it just a little bit so you all can get an indication of how we're doing university-wide. But first of all, I want to harken back to our strategic plan, which is, y'all remember we just launched our 2018 strategic plan last year with our 7 imperatives, and this is going to be a test. So you ready? You're going to have to name every one of the 7 imperatives. No, I'm just kidding. But what is the first one? Does anybody know? Come on. Oh, come on. I just bragged about y'all, and the president's sitting right there. Goodness. All right, so I'm going to help a little bit. It's all about, those are where our enrollment goals are in the strategic plan, but it says that Mercer is committed to being an intimate and diverse, I heard it, keep going, intimate and diverse community. Oh God, I'm gonna have to say the whole thing. All right, next time we do this, you better refresh and look back at that strategic plan, because I'm gonna test you again. Mercer is committed to being an intimate and diverse community of gifted scholars, that's you and our faculty and our students, who are what? Committed to, please get this part, yay, changing the world. Thank you very much. And indeed, we are. So when we're out there recruiting great Mercerians and great faculty and staff, that's who we're looking for. And indeed, we've been able to do that. So on this slide, you will see the trajectory of the traditional undergraduate program in Macon. I am thrilled to tell you once again, we are now, and you can see it by the graph, we have the largest undergraduate class in the history of the university. Whoop, whoop. Yep, thank you very much. And that, I'm so proud of these numbers, because it's not just a number, it's the student behind the number that I know that we're affecting and who are out there doing all of these incredible things that we're telling you about today. So we have the largest undergraduate class. That means that we have, again, enrolled almost 1,000 new students, incoming students, freshmen and transfers. It's really knocking on the door of that 1,000. It's just incredible when you think about the growth that we've had. Now, not just growth, but when you look at that over the last decade, under the president's tenure, y'all, that's 49% growth. So that's not just growth, that's substantial growth. That's pretty incredible. And it's not just about growth. I'm going to tell you about who we're recruiting here in just a moment in terms of profile. But how do those numbers then translate into the overall university enrollment? So let's talk about that for just a moment. Now we're approaching 8,800 university-wide. So that's all locations that the president showed you that great map of Georgia just a moment ago. So everywhere, that's graduate and professional and undergraduate. Of that approaching 8,800, you will see that about a little over half of that, and I'm going to talk about that number here in just a minute. I keep saying 8,800. I know that's not the number on the slide, but I'm going to tell you why here in just a second. But about half of those are undergraduate students. So whether they're traditional undergrads in Macon, and you know that number, or they're the post-traditional undergraduate students who are degree completion students in our regional academic centers and Macon and Atlanta who go to school at night or online. So those undergrads are
And
about
nursing
55%, excuse
And
me.
nursing students, don't forget the nurses.
And nursing students, don't forget the nursing students. Scott, I thought you turned off. Yeah. Come on, brother. Help me out, would you? And nursing students. Don't forget nursing students in Atlanta. Absolutely. Those are all of our undergraduate students, comprise about 55% of that total. And then the other 45% are those graduate and professional programs, including medicine, of course, and nursing in the graduate and professional programs. It includes theology and business and so forth and so on. So you've got lots of different students across all of those locations of Mercer doing great things. I mentioned theology. In the graduate and professional programs in particular, they are quite dynamic. Lots of societal needs and market demand really does, in fact, dictate that enrollment. You have heard me say in the past, and when you look at these data, theology, for example, has been down for the last several years, and I was so proud of them because just a shift in the recruitment efforts and so forth, that theology for the first time in several years has actually been up in terms of new student enrollment. About 28% overall in new student enrollment, and this one was amazing, but when you think about percentages, it means they had a small number to start with, but 80% increase in new students in their MDiv program, which is the Master of Divinity program. Certainly an important program to the mission of the university overall, and so I'm thrilled to see that success in that program. Again, law school coming back around from a time nationally that law schools have been down, and we're seeing some good growth in that incoming law school class again, both in terms of numbers, but also in terms of quality. So there are lots of things I could talk about across that university platform to highlight these numbers. Now, when you look at these numbers, university-wide, remember we have 12 colleges and schools throughout those 7 locations of Georgia. So over the last 10 years, this is so healthy, y'all. When you think about the 7% incremental growth university-wide, in a decade that has been quite tumultuous in terms of higher education enrollments. So I am proud, I am thrilled that university-wide we have continued to see that growth over the years. Now you see that projection there, and the President changed this number on me. Didn't you, President Underwood?
I changed several things.
Yeah, I know. He does this to all of us. And then we get up here and we go, oh, look at that. So this is a challenge. This is a personal challenge that I will take. No, I'm just kidding. We are marching toward Fall Session 2 enrollment, which concludes in October. So we have another start for fall census, and we are working really hard. But honestly, he's right. We're really close to be able to exceed last year's enrollment. But he knows that we're going to do everything we can to exceed that, especially that he put 8750 on there. So that means I'm going to beat it. We're going to go beyond that. So I hope and pray that we can say to you that we'll be at 8,757 at Fall Session 2. And that's it. That's all I'm committing to. All right. So very healthy growth, though. The thing you need to take away from that is healthy growth. 7% increase over a decade. All right, so I mentioned the profile. This is also in our strategic one, imperative one of the strategic plan. The profile growth that this incredible team sitting over here continues to lead is quite amazing. Back in 2009, we were at 3.62 average GPA and 1181 on SAT. You'll see this year, again, a tremendous growth in profile, 3.92. Average SAT around that 1300 mark. Just incredibly smart students. You know, it's funny, the provost mentioned about the scholars in, the Goldwater scholars in engineering. Do you know what engineering's incoming class, their average GPA was? Yeah, Stephanie, what'd you say? 4.02. Now, what's wrong with that picture? I was like, what? How are they even, when did we go above 4.0? But yes, their average GPA is 4.02, average SAT 1340, and average ACT was 30. That's strong. That's in the 94th, 95th percentile of all test takers, so really bright and talented young people. across the board. So in terms of, again, this is the traditional undergraduate program in Macon. Where are we going from here? I keep doing that, I'm sorry, y'all. Where are we going from here? You will see that our ACT and SAT averages are projected to continue to increase in the strategic plan. There is an average GPA goal of 3.95 and an ACT goal of 30 by the year 2028, and we think we are certainly poised to be able to do that. That obviously is in the last 5 years. Another thing I want to talk to you about in terms of the strategic plan are a couple of partnerships that inform the other imperatives. There are two other imperatives I want to talk about today. Imperative 3, which is about internationalizing our curriculum and our campus, and Imperative 4, which is about being relevant. This one, related to enrollment and Imperative 4, is a new program that we're partnering with. The Georgia Baptist College of Nursing in Atlanta is actually partnering with another entity to build enrollment growth around the accelerated Bachelor of Nursing program. These are for students who already have degrees. We're getting a lot of feedback about this one. They already have a degree, but they want to go back to get another degree and attain licensure in nursing. And again, it's just like the president was talking about the medical school. We're responding to the shortage of nurses in the state of Georgia. So this program has really gotten off to a great start. We actually, this number is a little bit different. In August and September, we were right at that 40 mark, and we're expecting a really big group coming in spring, as you can see there. So that's another way that Mercerians are out there changing the world and really making a difference. So the other imperative I want to talk about is Mercer Global, and that's internationalizing the curriculum. You've heard us talk about this in terms of recruitment of international students and making our curriculum more diverse as well. In this one, you'll see that we did admit a very small group of students on the Atlanta campus in the business program this fall. We're just kind of getting our feet wet with this one and working to really build our international connections across the world. In the spring of this upcoming year, in the fall of next year, we'll be starting some graduate programs in engineering, and we'll begin to see some students on the Macon undergraduate campus out of that program as well. So lots of energy that you will be seeing as a part of that Mercer Global Partnership. The final thing that I want to talk about before we give the podium back to the president are outcomes. Scott mentioned outcomes in terms of what our students are doing in terms of scholarships, but one thing that we of course monitor a lot in our unit is the retention and graduation rate. We don't want to recruit a student unless we know and believe and trust that they can in fact survive the rigors of a Mercer education, but also be able to finish and graduate. That's our mission. I've told people many times that this is one of the metrics that I'm actually so very proud of, is that we're able to come, y'all, and if you know this world at all, and many of you do because you help, every single one of you actually in this room help, moving from these low 80s to now being in the high to upper 80s, approaching that 90% in freshman to sophomore retention, that's huge for our university. And that took a big lift in order for all of us to develop that culture, to really make sure that we're focusing in on student success. And you all have done that, and we're certainly seeing the results of that in these kind of upper 80s. Now, I'm going to tell you how that translates here in just a minute in terms of graduation rate. For the next 5 years, this is what we're looking for. This is traditional undergraduate enrollment in Macon. You will see we're going to continue on that trajectory. Our projection is that we're going to be somewhere between that 900 and 1,000 mark every single year. That is our intent, and we are certainly poised to be able to do that, and that results in, over the next 5 years, you'll see that growth approaching that 3777. In our strategic plan, our goal is to be right at that 3750, so we are certainly on track to do so. Now, I mentioned the graduation rates, and here you go. Again, to take this jump from lower 60s to middle 60s, to look at that projection. Isn't that a sweet number? Y'all, in our unit, like, we celebrate when we see that, and I'm going to tell you why. This 2014 cohort, we're going to see over 70%, approaching 75% graduation rate. For our population, and I've said it every time I talk to y'all about this, and y'all work with these students, so you know. Scott mentioned the Pell eligible and the Gilman Scholarship. We have a number of Pell eligible students. We have a lot of first-generation college students. We're incredibly diverse for a private school. So these graduation rates are something to be applauded, and I'm talking about for y'all, to work with our faculty to really be able to see these students through to graduation. But these numbers are also, could be a little bit misleading. So here's my final test question for today. So if I ask you, if for Mercer, what is our graduation rate? Here's the answer. So of all the students who begin their careers at Mercer, well over 90% of those, really approaching 92 to 94%, actually do graduate. We now have the data to be able to track to say, even if they leave Mercer and transfer out, we know that they complete. So the graduation rate for those students who actually start with us is 90 to 92%, is sometimes approaching 94%. Those who actually graduate from Mercer, anywhere from 72 to 75%. And I think that's right for us. I think that's a good number, and I think that's certainly a doable number. That 75%, thank you for agreeing with me, that 75% strategic plan goal is certainly something that is attainable. And I'm proud to say that we're all on track to be able to achieve that goal. All right, questions that you have of me about any of these data? Okay.
Yeah, I think 75% is the right number for us, because you're going to have some students that come in and they decide they want to major in something we don't offer, or they have some family crisis and they need to be closer to home. Those kinds of things happen. If 75% who begin as freshmen here graduate here, I feel really good about where we are. Let me have your clicker for a minute. This one, we had a little bit of a hiccup this year. We were really rolling on this. We hit over 89% with the class that came in 2 years ago, and we fell back a little bit this year, and we're still assessing why that's the case. But I think we can be over 90% next year. What do you think, Penny? We have these kinds of conversations a lot. I think we can be over 90%.
We were honestly not surprised with that 89% because we knew the class coming in, and we knew, but it's a lot of work. Where's Kelly Burgess? Where's Kelly Holloway? There we go. There's the other Kelly. That's hard work, but that is attainable. I think the strategic plan goal of 92% is attainable for us. This year, we had a big increase in enrollment last year, and I think some of that and like the president said, we're still assessing that. We'll know in November what happened, but we did have a hiccup. But that is just, to me, you're going to have that kind of dynamic from 87 to 90%. That's going to be pretty much normal, maybe an up and down, but we can certainly achieve that goal of 92% in the next several years.
Yeah, you go back 5 or 6 years and we would have been overjoyed at 86%, but we've readjusted our sights and our expectations, and we think that we can do better than that. The class that had 89.1% was our third largest freshman class in our history. That was 2 years ago. We had 891 freshmen that year, and that had been a big jump over what it was the year before that. The year before that was something like 829 freshmen. So it was a big jump, but it was one that we managed really well, as evidenced by the fact that 89.1% came back for their sophomore year. The next year's class was another huge jump. Last year's class was the largest in our history. It was 873 freshmen, 973 freshmen, our largest in our history. And maybe we overstepped our capacity a little bit. We're still assessing that and trying to figure out what caused us to take a little bit of a step back on retention. But I think we have a freshman class that's pretty manageable this year. We have 900 freshmen this year, which is our second largest in our history. And I think we can convert that into a 90% retention rate. And I'll do anything I can to help on that. Campus is pretty peaceful this year. There's no heavy cranes going on. Jim, what's going on? What happened? There's no cranes out on campus.
That's right. It's different focus, different plan. Willett Science Building, that's how it looked before. You remember. It was old architecture, not one of the more attractive buildings on campus, but it was solidly built. Didn't want to have to tear it down.
Turns out it was not solidly built, actually.
Well, the exterior was not. When I was talking about this a year ago, I thought we were just redoing the interior. And then if you look at that picture, you see that set of bricks on the right, and you go all the way up to the top. We noticed along about January that they had come out from the building about this far. And we ran a TV wire behind it so we could see what was happening. And all over the building, if you know how bricks are attached, there are these metal strips that you put in between the bricks and it ties the brick. All of those were folded down, and there was nothing holding the brick up against the side of the building. So we took the side off, we did it right, and we put back new, and that gave us a chance to make a building that was unattractive into one that was really attractive. And it was a surprise. It cost us extra, but on the whole, I think we were probably well served. And we have a new walk up to the building. How many of you have been inside Willett since it opened? Doesn't look anything like the old one, does it? And some people get lost walking around in there. They're so disoriented. But it's a really good building and really nice. And people that are in there think they've gone to heaven. Loft 6 opened up. I got a little bit of a complaint from Jim Dawes that we were stealing some of his people, so Willett would get ready before Loft 6 would get ready, but they opened on time, and they've got a good occupancy rate, and particularly if you're over on this side of the campus going to engineering or science or something, that's a great place to live if you're an upper class student. And it's
How many of you all have been in those? Anybody been in them? Yeah, what do you think? Yeah. So I live in university housing too. I thought my house was pretty nice, the one I live in. It's not mine, but the one I live in I thought was pretty nice. But those are nicer. The students that live in lofts have better housing than I do. So I'm thinking about moving some of them into the president's house, and I may take a room over there.
A petition has been signed.
That's the old senior citizens building. When I first began talking about redoing that building, I've had any number of people say, where's that building? I was diagonally across from Newton Chapel. There's no building over there. I've driven by. And it's a little hard to tell behind all that greenery that there's no building there, that there is a building there. But we are redoing that, and we expect that to be finished at the end of this semester. And we plan to move into this building, as you see, bursar, registrar, financial planning, and student success, and student loans. Every place a student would need to go, regardless of the type of problem, put it all in one building. So if they go to the wrong office and you have to send them somewhere else, all they have to do is walk down the hall. It's a really, really big step up in student service. And let me just say to you, by next week, most of that greenery blocking the building is going to be gone. And we've had an assessment of what's there, and the best thing, it's not planned well, they're not doing well, some of them are close to end of life, and so we're going to take the trees that are there down and come back with something that's more appropriate for the building and will look better and serve better long term, and you'll be able to tell there's a building there.
How many of y'all are going to work in that building? Yeah. Have you been in it yet since they started working on it? It's going to be a nice space. I think it'll be just as nice as Willett is across the hall.
It's going to be a really nice space, and we aren't going to move over in one fell swoop. When you move in, depends on which office you're in. Some offices, we're going to have it ready at the end of the semester. Some offices can move well at the end of the semester. Some offices, oh no, you can't move us. You got to let us get into spring semester and let us get through the crunch and let us get through drop add, and then and only then can you think about moving us. So by mid to late February, everybody will be over there, but we'll be moving some people as early as the week after finals end on Saturday the 14th. But it's going to be a nice space and really work well. That's a little bit of what it will look like afterwards. Going to put a new front door on it. Say, I wasn't kidding about Willie. It's going to look really nice. It's going to be a nice addition. And it's going to be a great, great service to our students. Hardman Hall has all new windows. And we have repaired, that stonework is old, and with age you get cracks and you get problems. We had it all tuck pointed and repaired, and that is a great, great looking building now. That's what it looks like now. And it's put a new roof on it a year ago and put the new windows in it, and that building's here for a long time.
I want y'all to study something. The windows on the right, I want you to look at those. Now go back one, Jim. And see the same windows. What's the difference? The old one has these crummy blinds, and the art professors don't know how to keep them even. They kind of have them tilted. So you know what the solution to that was? No more blinds.
Take good care of it or lose it.
That showed.
And there's a second view of Hardman Hall afterwards. It's a really nice space and well done. And then in this building, over on that side, we did a major interior renovations for the Rural Health Innovation Center that's over there. If you haven't been in, I invite you to go. It's a nice space, well done, serves well. That building, take one good last look. In November, we'll go inside, we'll begin to work on that building, and basically we're going to do all the asbestos abatement that's necessary, whatever's left. And then between that December the 14th, when finals end, and when we open back up in mid-January, that building's going to be gone. And then we will come in, once we tear it down and haul it all off, then the question is, what are you going to do with that space? Well, we're going to turn it for the time being into really nice green space that allows the campus to look better and connect better, and it'll look something like this. All right? Whoops, well, gave you an old one. That's an older version, but this will not be here. But computer science used to be in there, and there will be walkways like this. If you haven't noticed, can you see these numbers? That's 434 feet. That's 450 feet. All right? That's 16 feet you got to climb up. If you know anything about ADA accessibility, there's a limit to how steep you can make it, and the fact you got to give people space periodically to go out on the level and rest up. And so this, excuse me, well, go back. There we go. Let me try again. I'm sorry. I'll get back. Well, it's got a mind of its own, doesn't it? Either that or my finger's faster than it can move. But if you'll look, this goes up to 440. We've got steps here, and the able-bodied will go right like that. But the folks who have a problem with steps will be able to keep right on walking. And the way you handled disabled access best is you don't say, well, this is where the healthy people walk, and the rest of you go over here. You try to do it so that everybody is in an area that is equally designed and equally accommodating, and so you just take a more leisurely route, and you can handle all of the space changes just fine. And one of the things we're going to do here is, this will happen in the summertime, but we're actually going to change the entrance to Connell here and take out the Connell's got one of those old ones, right? If you need help, you have to enter your own little walkway here and come up, but everybody else comes up here. That's now going to be higher than Connell than it currently was, and we'll change this a bit, and it's all going to tie in and be much more accessible, much nicer, and going to be a real amenity in the center of campus. Now we'll move on. Thomas Jefferson Building, that's down on Cherry Street. And we are redoing the 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors for use by the School of Medicine. We're going to put a sim lab down there that will serve us and Navicent and Coliseum. We're moving our marriage and family therapy program down there and psychology down there, and it's going to really enhance what goes on downtown, enhance the services that we do, and give us a better partnership with our medical partners here in town. And then we're going to build new intramural fields. All right? Orient you. There's I-75. This is the railroad track. And right over here, that's the dog park. Everybody know where the dog park is over on the other side? Well, we're going to take basically these 2 blocks. We've acquired all the land in here. There was a hearing yesterday on Mercer buying this road and this road and this road from the city so that we could take them up and turn all of this into one giant set of intramural fields over there. 3 intramural fields and a club sports field and a storage facility, lots of parking, and restaurants. And it's going to be a great boost for our intramural programs, for undergraduate students, a great boost for this area. And we will start on that once the city gets through letting us buy back the streets, so that and we're poised, and that'll be finished sometime in the spring, and we'll grow over the summer, and next fall we'll have really, really great space, and our intramural program will take on a new step forward.
This is 2 blocks from campus. It'll be exhausting for the students to walk those 2 blocks so they can play soccer over there. But I think they can do it. What do you think, Doug? Well, this is just 2 blocks.
Right? Yes. Here's the dog park. Here's where our parking is. Here are where the 3 intramural fields are going to go. Here is the storage area and the restrooms. This is a field where you can warm up before you go over and play the next game, so that those who come and are waiting the next game, they've got a good area. And then this is the club sports field. And it's all going to work together very well. Any questions on that one? Mercer Village, Atlanta. That is something that is the same folks that built Mercer Lofts here are building lofts up in Atlanta to accommodate the growing programs there. And there's your view. There will be 2, think Mercer Village here. Commercial on the ground floor, apartments on the floors up above. Here, we're planning on buying the ground floor as a condo, sort of like where HR and advancement and so forth are, or the Center for Collaborative Journalism. We'll do a condo there. And then there's the AACC. This is going to be right off of Flowers Road and tie into the rest of the campus. We've looked at how the campus will develop long term, and this is a perfect fit and the first step of seeing our Atlanta campus move forward. There's a view from one of the dining facilities proposed back toward Flowers Road. And then we expect to break ground in January, February on the Moore Pharmacy and Health Sciences building in Atlanta. That is the entrance view to the facility from the parking lots. And then this is the view. This is looking at the building from the front door of the nursing school and where it fits. A really attractive building. And this is a design for how we're going to redo the campus. All right, that's McAfee and theology. This is Day Hall, business and education, nursing. And we're going to put the building in right here. That was the first entrance you saw. Here was the second entrance. We will redo right now there's a almost non-functional stair that goes there. We're going to redo that, make it more user-friendly, have a platform partway down, then have more walkways that come down both sides, put sidewalks here to make that a tighter space. It'll feel a lot better. And then we'll have some more. Down here, this will be a walking track. We do an outdoor graduation there. There's enough space here for us to move the outdoor graduation there. And then, you know, the president loves water features. Well, this is part of the stormwater drainage that we'll turn into a water feature there. All right? So he gets the things that he likes the most and that I tolerate. And, but it's going to be really nice. And then we opened this fall a redo of the cafeteria up on the Atlanta campus, and it really functions well. We've got a which. Let's see, do we have a second picture? Nope, not a second picture. Let me go back. We have the which there, and then there's a salad bar, and there's sandwiches, and there's a Mongolian grill, and there are a lot of options. And the folks in Atlanta are just thrilled with it, the reports I get. I'll see it in operation come Thursday of this week. Somebody else's.
Okay. Questions for Jim? Are you going to park? Yeah, there's a parking garage right behind it, though. Yeah, there's a connected parking garage. You can park there, or you can park outdoors, or you can walk from campus here.
Certain days you can ride the campus shuttle down.
Campus shuttle, but there's a parking garage right behind it. Yeah, and I think they'll take care of your parking there. Other questions? You know, Jim has his PhD in mathematics. He was a mathematician, and he just loves stuff like, you know, the angle of the slope coming from the street to the Connell Student Center. Can you all tell that? He'll tell you more about that if you'd like. Is Larry Brumley here? Okay, this is Larry's life. This project is Larry Brumley's life. And I don't want him to tell you the whole life story because we'll have to shut down the university by the time he's done. But maybe 5 minutes of his life story. He used to be my chief of staff.
Any Southern rock fans in the room? Allman Brothers Band, Wet Willie, Marshall Tucker. That's Leonard Skinner. They didn't record here. Mercer is taking the historic Capricorn Sound Studios downtown and restoring it. And this project, in essence, is about leveraging Macon's music heritage to create Macon's music future. It's about taking all that history behind Capricorn that really had not only an impact on Macon, but American culture and really around the world. The Allman Brothers and many of these bands that recorded at Capricorn were more popular in Europe than they were in the United States. And so Macon, how many of you lived in Macon your whole life? So many of you probably know this story, but Macon's a big deal internationally in terms of music. And so we're going to take this historic studio and restore it, and it's going to be opening in December. So behind this, where's the clicker?
I've got it.
All right, thank you. So really there are four major components to Mercer Music at Capricorn. We're restoring the historic recording studio where the Allman Brothers recorded and Wet Willie and all these great bands, Charlie Daniels. And the studio itself, it was in great condition, relatively speaking, to the rest of the building. And so it's being preserved. We're just cleaning it up and upgrading the electrical and HVAC. It's a great recording studio. So that's a piece of it. And we're adding a second studio that's larger that will be suitable for orchestral recording, like our School of Music can go down there and record. It'll be suitable for film scoring. It'll also double as event space for concerts and other kinds of special events. There'll be a music incubator, which is really the heart of this project and was the president's original vision several years ago, is to create space downtown for up-and-coming musicians to have a place to rehearse. And so there will be 12 rehearsal rooms at Mercer Music at Capricorn that musicians can rent by the day or by the month or by the year. Very low cost. They'll have 24/7 access to these rehearsal rooms, so they can, if they want to rehearse at 2 in the morning, they can go down there and practice in one of these rehearsal rooms. There'll be a retail store, a gift shop, and a museum. The museum will tell the history of Capricorn and Macon music in general. It'll have a lot of interactive exhibits. You can listen to Capricorn songs. You'll be able to read stories about Capricorn's history and see artifacts. You can spend 15 minutes there, or you can spend 8 hours there, just depending on how deep of a dive you want to take. And then there will be offices and conference rooms there on the second floor. Half of those offices are going to be devoted to nonprofit arts organizations like Bragg Jam, Macon Film Festival, Macon Pops, so that they have a place to collaborate. The other half of the offices will be rented at market rate to compatible type businesses or professionals. Like we've already had a music attorney sign up for an office. So they can be there to help these musicians establish their businesses and learn how to protect the work that they create. So there are 3 E's that really are behind this. Education, our music school will use this space for recordings. They'll have a certain number of hours every month of studio time that they can go down and ensembles can record. There will be space in the building for instruction. There will be a Pro Tools lab. where students can go and practice their sound editing skills. There will be big seminar rooms where they can have classes. So we see our music school using it as well. Some of the rehearsal rooms could be used for private instruction, someone teaching guitar lessons or whatever. So there's an educational component to this. There's a big economic development component. Cultural tourism is huge. We've learned this working on this project the last 2 years. Places like Memphis and Muscle Shoals and Nashville, people come from all over the world to go visit those places that made that music, that were such a big part of their lives. So we expect people to come from all over the world to visit Mercy Music at Capricorn, to see where the Allman Brothers recorded. So that's a big piece of this. The working studio and creating music-related businesses will add to the economic development of Macon, particularly downtown. And then there's the entertainment piece of it. We'll have some on-site performances and tapings there in the second studio. And it's a talent incubator for area stages. There are more and more live music venues in Macon, thankfully. And there are more stages. As we get more stages for live music, there'll be more places for these musicians to perform. So this is an aerial shot of, this is Mercy Music at Capricorn. It's actually 4 historic buildings that date from 1880 that were connected. In 1967, Phil Walden, who's a Mercer alum, he got his start when he was a student at Mercer, booking Otis Redding for fraternity parties. And he and Otis formed a company called Red Wall Music, one of the first integrated music businesses, or businesses of any kind in the Deep South. And they bought this building in 1967 to put a recording studio in so that Otis would not have to leave Macon and go to Muscle Shoals or Memphis to record. Tragically, a few months after they bought this building, Otis went down in a plane crash. Phil lost a good friend and lost his business partner and kind of wandered about for a couple of years trying to figure out what to do until somebody called him up and said, I've got this guitarist I don't know what to do with. His name's Dwayne Allman. And Phil brought him to Macon, told Dwayne, form me a band. They formed the Allman Brothers Band. The rest is history. So you see around it, these new lofts have been built. Sierra Development, the same company that built our loft apartments, has built these very nice loft apartments around Capricorn. They're 80% leased already. So this is a close-up of the facade. They're making good progress on this. Russell's here. Russell has personally experienced some of the challenges of restoring an old building. They had a couple of big surprises once they got in there. A lot of the challenges were known up front. Some of them weren't known until they got in there and started demolition. But Mercer is saving these buildings, and it's been remarkable how well this has worked together to put these buildings back into service. This is a rendering of what it's going to look like when it's finished. We're using historic tax credits to help pay for this, and so the facade will be returned. The facades will be returned to what they traditionally look like, and you'll see that there's this goat here. That's a piece of art that is actually at the Big House Museum right now. It was originally in that space at Capricorn. In the days they were recording in there in the 70s, they would light it up whenever there was recording going on in the studio. We're putting it back there. The Big House is loaning it back to us, and we're going to put it in there. And so when you drive by there and see the goat lit, you know they're recording in there. So this is the historic studio, and you can see it's very 70s looking, but that's what it's going to look like when it's finished pretty much. We're upgrading the electrical and the HVAC and otherwise cleaning it up, but it's a great recording studio. The sound in there is tremendous. This is one of the rehearsal rooms, and you see there's some art that was painted around these window sills, and we're preserving that.
One person's art is another person's graffiti.
Yeah, some people might call this graffiti, but this wall here, an artist from Athens, Georgia, named Michael Pierce did this. We're preserving this art inside this is in the incubator building. This is a rendering of what the museum will look like. There will be these digital kiosks here. They're built to look like record bins, and some of them will have artifacts under glass. Some of them will be digital touch panels that you can interact with and play music or read stories or see photos. Again, you could spend 15 minutes in here or 8 hours. This is a rendering of what the green room is going to look like. The green room is where the artists who are there recording hang out when they're not recording. And you can see it's being restored to a very 70s look, but it'll be a chic 70s look. So this is going to be a cool place to hang out. So mark your calendars, December 3rd, 2019. We're going to have a big celebration down there at 2 p.m. It's open to the public. It's free. You can come, and there'll be some recognitions and a bit of a program. We'll have live music as part of the program. When the dedication program is over, we'll have live music on the stage, outdoor stage, and then we'll have live music in the studio. The building will be open for tours so people can go through it at no cost and see what Mercer Music at Capricorn is all about. So that's it in 5 minutes.
Questions for Larry? Larry loves this project, y'all. He loves this project. He can sing every song recorded in that studio for you. What's your favorite one, Larry? Go ahead and hum a few lines for him. Wet Willie, y'all know who Wet Willie? That was a great band. What was their best song? Any of you who know Wet Willie? No. That wasn't their most famous song was Keep on Smiling, which I think at one point was #1 in 1973 or 4 on the charts. But their best song, this is undisputed. Their best song is Grits Ain't Groceries. Larry, where are you? Can you hum that one for him? Grits Ain't Groceries. How many of you know that song? All right, what you need to do is pull up your iPhone when we get through, and there's a YouTube of Grits Ain't Groceries. It's a great song. Athletics, we all like sports. We won 4 championships this past year. How about women's basketball? That was their 4th conference championship in a row. Fantastic. We won the all-academic trophy for the league. We win that every year, and I mean that. Literally, we win that every year. Every year we've been in the Southern Conference, we've won the academic championship, and we're really proud of that and want to see that streak continue. Jeff gets the trophy, the student athletes get the grades, and we win because of their grades. How many of you know Amanda Thompson? How many of you met Amanda Thompson? Yeah, she's fantastic. She was the Women's Basketball Player of the Year this year. She was a first-team academic All-American, and she was the Southern Conference Women's Athlete of the Year. In other words, she won just about everything possible, and if there's ever somebody that deserved it, it was Amanda. She's working as a school teacher this year back in her hometown in North Carolina, and hopefully we can persuade her to come back and go to graduate school in engineering and maybe one day be a member of our faculty. She's fantastic. Don't work on that, will you? Not only did she do all those things, but she was in South America twice working on that mercury capture system. So she was really what we're looking for in student athletes generally. We've had some football games. We got more to go. You'll continue supporting them. Next year, we've got some really great non-conference games. We play Yale. Last year, we played Yale in New Haven, Connecticut. And they knew we had more speed than they did. So what they did was the whole week before the game, they watered down the field. It was a grass field, and it was reduced to a muddy quagmire. Our guys couldn't even run out on the field to start the game because they would have slipped and fallen. And it was terrible. But they have to come here next year. So what should we do? What do y'all think we should do? It'll be about this time of year next year when they come here. Some people have suggested maybe we should play the game at 2 in the afternoon. We'll think about that. I hate to see somebody get hurt, but we'll think about it. Look, that event Saturday was a great community building event, and a lot of you in this room played a central role in making that happen. Rhonda's whole team was out there planning and working to support faculty and staff at the tailgate. Carrie Inglesby and folks from Student Life just had a tremendous student turnout. That's probably where the 1,000 beers went. I have no idea, Carrie. Somebody bought over 1,000 beers. Russell and his team were tremendous. John Patterson and Terry Steele, and you all were tremendous. I'm sure I'm missing some folks. Athletics with Daniel Tate and those folks. It was just a great all-around team effort, and it is designed to create a sense of community. And I'm glad so many of you were able to be there and participate. We're going to do something like that for Faculty Staff Appreciation Day, and you see the date, November 2nd. And where is Rhonda? Rhonda's not here today. Okay, why don't you tell us about it for Rhonda? Candace, go ahead. Yeah, what are we going to do? Okay, yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. And the weather will be fantastic on November 2nd, so cooler weather. Although it was pretty good Saturday. We got lucky on Saturday. It wasn't as hot as it is today, for example. Okay, I want to say just a couple of words about money. Gifts received. We had another really good fundraising year. That year that you see poking way up there, we had a $35 million grant that skewed the numbers that year. I'll take that kind of skewing every year, John. But this was a really good year, $27.1 million, and that's not pledges, that's money received during the course of the year, which was a little bit up from the year before. And really, the last 5 years have been our best 5 years in fundraising. So John Patterson and his team are just doing great work in showing people the opportunities they have to make a difference here at Mercer. The University Endowments reached its all-time high, $377 million as of the end of the last fiscal year, June 30th. And I've told John, let's try and get that to $500 million this year. What do you think, John? Amen. Revenues are up. We had $295 million in operating revenues this past year. Statement of activities, we were operated in the black. We had about a 4% operating margin, which is considered solid and stable, and I think better than what we usually do in terms of our operating margins. So I think the university's quite healthy financially, which is good news for everybody. We don't want to come in one day and find that the doors are locked and we're all out of work. So that's good. You know, Scott is really cheap. He's one of the cheapest people I know, and that's a useful skill for a provost. You want a provost who's cheap and stingy. In fact, I was trying to think, do I know anybody cheaper or stingier than Scott? And it turns out I do. Who might that be? Yeah, Jim Netherton. Jim Netherton. And that's a really useful skill for somebody who's a senior vice president, executive vice president for finance and administration. Jim's been here since 2007, and I just want to give him pat on the back for some changes. Our total assets when he arrived were $260 million. This year, they're up to $809 million. That's a 76% growth in assets during his just over a decade of service. Net assets, $261 million when he arrived, $457 million now. That's a 74.5% increase in net assets. That's really healthy. Unrestricted net assets, that's really kind of your rainy day fund. Those are monies you can pull down if some disaster hits and we have to go a semester without any tuition revenue. Can we survive for that semester while we're getting over whatever cost us our revenue? Well, the fact is we're now in a position where we could. We had just over 80 million in unrestricted assets when Jim arrived, about 170 million today, so that's 106% improvement in unrestricted assets, and you see the rest of those lines. So Jim is cheap and stingy, or some might say prudent. It's really prudent, and it's just been great financial leadership. And everybody in here is responsible for good financial results because all of you contribute to it. But it's made the university a much more stable institution financially, which is good for everyone. Any questions? Nothing? Yeah, he's listening to Wet Willie. Grits Ain't Groceries. Grits ain't groceries, eggs ain't poultry, and Mona Lisa's a man. That's how the song goes. All right. Thank you all for being here, and thanks for all you do. We're adjourned.